Hey guys, Dave here. I just wanted to go over another video topic discussing the different types of drop point blade shapes because there are a few differences and I just wanted to point them out and show you which is my favorite. So I have a few different knives here that we can go over. I have the Benchmade Mini Bug Out, custom Clyde Challenor Viper, and oh yeah, I forgot to show you this as part of my Manix collection. This is the Spyderco Manix 2, as you can tell in the Grade G10 52-100 blade steel. It's actually quite nice. Let's listen to the sound on that. Sorry to step away from the topic for a moment. I don't know if the sound's picking up enough, but I assure you that actually sounds, in my opinion, like the best Manix that I have. This just had some residue on it from some wood that I was cutting that had some dried tape on it. No big deal, I can clean that off. But was using it, held up just fine. The Benchmade limited edition Mini Presidio, and then the Chris Reeve Small Sebenza 31. Okay, see if I can put them all in frame nicely together. Oh, sorry, forgot one. My custom Alan Elishewitz M2 folder. Tetralock folder. Okay, now, so, oh, you know what? Before I forget, something I wanted to mention that I just remembered on my last video and I forgot to mention about this Sebenza. One other thing that annoys me about the Sebenza, and I don't know if this will come up clearly, I'll try to do my best. Use this wood as demonstration. You know what? Maybe I can move these more out of frame for a second to give you guys an idea of what I'm going to show you. So I'm going to use this as a resting point. If you can see this, I'm going to put pressure on the blade here to show that it flexes, or it has like a lock rock, if you want to call it that. Not necessarily blade play, but a lock rock. And this has been one of those things that's been very well known amongst the knife community, and especially the Sebenza owners. That's why a lot of them have been critical of the 31. But I just want to show you this. You see how that blade is moving up and down? I'm not doing anything in particular other than putting pressure on the tip of that blade to make it flex. So that is something that does bother me. Now, like I said, I did spine whack this and it held up just fine, but it's something that I believe should be recognized and at least noted at the very least. So I just wanted to share that. You know, truthfully, I believe the reason that has that lock rock, if you want to call it that, I believe there's a little bit of, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but play with the ceramic ball that's embedded inside. You can see it right there. The lock bar cutout. I believe that ceramic ball has flex in and of itself, or maybe the little seating position that it's seated, the cutout that it's sitting in has a little flex or a little give where the blade is actually pressing up against the ceramic ball and it has just a little flex. And between those two things combines with the titanium lock bar, I believe it's creating that flex just through the natural movement of what you saw me doing. Do I consider this a major problem? Well, from what I understand, all the Sebenza 21 owners never had that problem. All my other knives, from what I've experimented with, don't have that problem. So I would say it's an issue, it's a flaw, it should be addressed by Chris Reeve. the company. I know that Tim's running the show now, and I believe that that should be addressed. Will they? To be honest, probably not. Unless enough people spoke up about it, then it'd be a different story. Anyway, getting off topic, let me get back to the video. Sorry for the ramble. So, just to show you a difference, this has a very straight edge for the most part, and then it sweeps up, has a little bit of belly, comes to a nice tip. All right, my Alan Lischwitz. Oh, and it does have a nice swedge that kind of shapes down or slopes down. The mini bug out. Okay, almost perfectly even on both sides, and it just kind of meets right in the middle, the way that this drop point comes down to a nice tip. Very usable blade shape. Clyde Challenor Viper also have just a small step down, not really a swedge, but has a little bit of belly, comes up to a nice fine point tip. This has a little more belly than my Mannix. Mannix's, excuse me. And I really like the Mannix because of this very reason, that this slopes down. It just has a nice, beautiful drop. You know, it's dropping. The drop point comes down. And, you know, the bug out is similar. Not exactly the same, but it does drop nicely as well. The Mini Presidio, similar in effect. I believe this has maybe more of a slope down as well. It does have a swedge. It almost reminds you of like a spear point, and I can see how people could think that this is a spear point because of the cutout swedge here and the reinforced tip, way that it's ground. Okay, but this is technically a drop point, but very similar to a spear point. And then the Sebenza, which has a very, not gradual, I would almost say a little bit more than abrupt upsweep in the blade, or uptick in the blade. In comparison, this has more of a drop point, and this is a drop point as well, but it has more of a upswept type of blade. Not quite like a Persian style, but just something to note. So if you are going to use the tip for any finer work, you really have to angle the blade. You know, you can't really angle it like this because you're still using the belly. But if you were to angle it in order to cut something, you really have to almost put your hand on a 90-degree angle. Not quite, probably like 80 degrees. But with the Mannix, for instance, it's a lot easier. You could do it more of like a 45-degree angle because it has that beautiful drop point. Same with like the bug out, right? Maybe a little higher. And then Presidio, similar in effect. The reason that I like the slightly sloped down drop points, which is what a drop point is, you know, the blade drops to that point, is because it's a more useful blade shape. It reminds me, and I say this comment loosely, it reminds me of a Wharncliffe. Okay, Wharncliffe has a completely straight edge going across, comes down to a perfect pointed tip right at the end. So I don't have a Wharncliffe here to show you right now, but this is in effect, has a straight edge, comes to a very abrupt tip. Oh, actually, razor blade, right? Pointed tip that actually broke off there. Still useful though. But you get the most effective cutting with a Wharncliffe blade shape. And no, we're not talking about Wharncliffes at the moment. We're talking about drop points. But in regards to drop points, they're probably one of the most useful blade shapes there are. I do believe that Wharncliffes are just as useful. They're taken for granted. A lot of people don't like them. But it's funny because the razor blade that I just showed you, and all razor blades, all box cutters, right? They all have Wharncliffe blade shapes. And what are they used for? A million different uses. Carpenters, excuse me, those who install floors, carpets. I just said that, didn't I? Twice. Sorry, it's been a long day, guys. Anyway, they use these box cutters and razor blades because they're effectively useful, and you get the most, I would say, force or cutting power with a Wharncliffe blade shape, which is why I do like the more traditional drop point blade shapes on, say, like the bug out, mini bug out, and then the Manix, because it has more of that drop or that slope going down. So it's a very effective blade shape in that way. And if you're using it for, a little more detailed work, it's also going to perform that area very well. Uh, what else could I say about it? Some people do like the more upswept blade shape, you know. What's more upswept? This, it's similar, I would say, to my Allen Elishewitz. Very similar. It's a different knife altogether, but, and don't get me wrong, the upswept drop point is not unuseful. It's just in comparison, when you're using it for, like I said, opening up boxes, or if you were cutting something in more of a draw cut feature, it's so much more useful to have that drop or that slope down with the blade rather than that more upswept blade shape in the drop point. So I'm going based on my experience. And, I used to have a Giant Mouse, what was it? The Ace Grand, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm trying to remember what that blade shape was offhand. Probably a clip point, if I'm not mistaken. Very interesting design. I wound up selling it. It didn't suit me, but apart from that fact, it had a very dramatic upswept blade shape. Similar to, say, the Sebenza or even my M2. But it just, for daily, everyday use, I didn't find it very useful. A drop point should have a drop point blade shape where it slopes down more. Like I said, I'm not going to get rid of these other knives you see in front of you, right? I'm not going to get rid of my Sebenza necessarily. If I get rid of my Sebenza, that's a different story for other reasons that I've stated in my last video you can watch. But it's still an effective drop point blade shape, or if they wouldn't make it. But if you're comparing the two, we'll just use even the bug out. I would use the bug out blade shape all day long because it has more of a dramatic, not really dramatic, excuse me, just a nice slope down toward the tip. And of course the Manix is one of my favorite blade shapes, just the way that it slopes down even further. It's just useful, the closer you... I'm sorry guys, it's been a long day, but I just wanted to make a short video going over this. And I'm having a hard time trying to gather my thoughts because this was not scripted, but that's okay. At least it's genuine. So, I would like to hear, what are your favorite blade shapes, or do you like more of an upswept drop point blade? Do you like more of a traditional drop point blade? Such as, would I compare these in comparison? I'm just trying to see. Yeah, those are similar. I'll get more of the traditionals drop point blade shapes here. To me, those are your more useful drop point blade shapes. The way that the blade slopes down toward the tip. Okay, it's very effective. Like I said, the more drop that it has, the more it reminds me of a Wharncliffe, and a Wharncliffe is very effective. Just ask those in the industry of those heavy duty jobs and out there. Carpenters, woodworkers, you name it. So anyway, without me rambling on that much more, just wanted to see if there was any other points that I forgot. I think that was it. So yeah. Anyway, thanks again, guys, for watching. I hope you have a great weekend. And feel free to check out any of my other videos. I try to have an array of different topics, trying to do something different in the community. Yes, there's dozens and dozens and probably even hundreds of YouTubers reviewing knives. But I want to do something that is on my mind every now and then, something a little different. So feel free to check out other videos. I'm going to do things in regards to production, custom, and just different topics that have always been on my mind that I don't believe some have addressed. So anyway, I think I'm going to cut it off there. Thanks again for watching. Until the next time, take care.